Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Sikh Channel team are in Dubai, and we're very pleased to be joined by the leading community leader in Dubai for the Sindhi community. The Sindhi community have been scattered around the world and are well known for their enterprise. And here in Dubai, there's a very sizable, successful Sindhi community, and the leading Sindhi amongst the community is Dr. Ram Buxani. We're very pleased to be joined by Dr. Buxani. Dr. Buxani, thank you for joining the Sikh Channel team.
Thank you very much, Davinder. It's for me also to be quite happy to be with you.
Thank you. Dr. Buxani, perhaps we can start with your childhood. If you can tell us a little bit about your parents and where you were born and raised.
Well, I mean, you are moving me into the nostalgic memories. I was very small, around 5 years, when we shifted from Hyderabad, Sindh to present India. As a matter of fact, we came in the train with my grandmother, my mother, and 5 of my siblings. That was a time when I lost my father. He was sick briefly for a few days, and then he passed away. That was on the 14th December 1947 we traveled to India.
Because of partition. Partition was a huge disaster for the Sindhi community. Sindh was caught all in Pakistan with a huge majority Hindu population, and it was a tragedy which has haunted the Sindhi community to this day. What are your memories of partition?
Actually, I have come to the conclusion that, I mean, we call it partition, but so far Sindhis are concerned, we were driven away from our land. There was no partition. Partition was for Punjab, partition was for Bengal. In case of Sindh, it was totally given away to Pakistan. I won't blame anyone else except our leaders. Unfortunately, Sindhi community does not have politically community leaders. We have politicians in Sindhi community, but they are national leaders. They are big leaders, but what we really need is the community leaders who work for the community. Like Indian Parliament is run on the basis of constituencies. And with the result, when we talk about constituency, there is no Sindh constituency, and resulting the communities are not represented at all. Yes. So this is exactly happened, but in spite of that, the community has strived hard and existed very well all over the world.
And so where did you settle after partition? You left your ancestral lands in Sindh, now Pakistan. Where did your family end up, and how did they rebuild their life?
When we left Pakistan, the first stop was Ahmedabad, the railway platform of Ahmedabad. Because from Hyderabad, Sindh to Marwar, from Marwar to Ahmedabad, and a couple of days we enjoyed the hospitality of local voluntary organization, and initial months, perhaps initial years of independence, one could travel all over the country without any ticket, because the word refugee was enough. And from Ahmedabad we moved to Madras. I stayed in Madras. I had my initial education in Madras, the first standard. Then from there came to Baroda, because my uncle, who used to live in Macau in those days, he suggested, as I said, having lost my father, there was no senior male member in the family. Then we have to follow the guidance of our relatives, and my uncle who used to live in Macau, he said, you better settle down in Baroda, because his wife was living there, my aunt was living there. So we came to Baroda. I had my education in Baroda, and from Baroda I came to Dubai after finishing my initial education.
What year did you come to Dubai? And what was it like when you first came?
1959. It was not Trussell Estate. I mean, it was not UAE. It was part of the Trussell Estates. It was under British protectorate, and Dubai was a small town without electricity. We used to have a kerosene lanterns, and water. Running water was not available. The water used to come from wells, and they used to serve water on the donkeys. Some local Bedouins who would bring water taken out from wells in kerosene tins, 2 tins on both sides of the donkey, and that water will be brought here. It would cost 4 annas, 1 rupee, because local currency was Indian rupee in those days when I came. And if you remember, or if you are aware about, 1 rupee had 16 annas,
Yes.
and 16 annas, and then 64 paisas. We had the legacy of British system, where shillings were there and pences were there. We also had annas and pies and paisas. So 4 annas means quarter rupee was per tin.
And in those early days, did you have a lot of struggle, and did you think of turning back and going back to India?
Not exactly. As a matter of fact, I mean, you think that we have struggled. People think that way, because when we express that was the way of life. But since everybody was living that way, I personally, I did not feel anything wrong. Although back, even in Baroda, back home, I mean, the conditions were better than here. But it was very interesting. As a matter of fact, life was much more informal, because since there was no telephone, and the whole town was half a kilometer, that means you had to go personally to meet the people whenever you wanted to talk to them, and in the process you met whole town. That sort of closeness never exists any other place.
That's right. The world has changed a lot since then. And you started off in enterprise, you started your company. Can you tell us about your business life? What was your first business, and did it go smoothly, or was it a difficult path?
This is also interesting. I wanted to come not to Dubai. I was looking for a job, and I read an advertisement in an ethnic paper in Bombay for a job of office assistant. I applied. But I had back on my mind that I have to go for a job in some of the international Sindhi organizations, like KC or Dhalamals or Chotarmals. So this was a Chotarmal advertisement which appeared in ethnic newspaper. I applied for it. They called me for interview, and I passed the interview. I got the job, and I came here. So the company I am in is the same company with which I started my work.
You took over the company.
I don't say I took over, but it came.
Yes, that's a tremendous story. And in that business success, what was your ethos? How did you work? What was your approach to business?
Yes, I mean, when I came here, we were doing only textile business. It was a very small number of people working, very small operations.
Yes.
Then after that, of course, we have shifted and expanded
Yes.
from different, from textiles to electronics. We briefly, even we went into hospitality industry. We opened Dubai's first hotels, Ambassador and Astoria. We had a sizable participation, but then we exited. So there have been, situations where we enter into diversified lines, but and remain there for some time and come out. But now we have exchange company, which is with Canara Bank. They are the people who are managing it. We are in real estate, and then we are.
And what is the size of the company now in terms of employees and turnover?
We have 150 people. Well, so far size of the company is concerned, ours is a private company, and we don't disclose the figures, but it's a reasonably large,
very successful
outfit.
company.
Yes.
And in terms of the Sindhi community, we celebrate this year 550 years of Guru Nanak Dev Ji's birth anniversary. The Sindhi community are very attached to the message of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. Can you tell us about your mother's legacy and what your mother taught you?
Well, so far Guru Nanak is concerned, I have been attached right from my childhood, because my mother would take us to Gurdwara every Sunday and make us do langar seva, water seva, even shoe seva. All these things which are being done in Baroda, we used to do, and overnight I'll serve water the people who were coming here, and every morning without reading Japji Sahib, we will not leave for the school. So the scriptures of Sikhism, they have been part of our life, and my mother did not believe in anyone else except Guru Nanak. And whatever would happen, she said, Guru acha karega.
That's tremendous.
That much faith and confidence she had.
And that legacy that she passed on to you, will that continue for generations to come?
Yes.
In the Buxani family?
Yes. And we need to leave that, because as Sindhi, see, there is also a reason behind this legacy, because Sindh was very near to Punjab approximately, and Sindhis have no religion of their own, I would say.
Yes.
Of course, there have been spiritual leaders in the community, like we have Sadhu Vaswani, or now this Brahma Kumaris are also coming up, which originated from Sindh. But Swami Temuram, these are spiritual leaders, and very strongly spiritual leaders.
Yes.
But they are much more close to Guru Nanak, and that legacy will continue.
Yes. The Sindhi community have been scattered around the world. As we discussed earlier, partition was a disaster for the Sindhi community. They didn't get their own state within India, but they've been very successful wherever they've gone. They're a great enterprising community. How important is the Sindhi language, do you think?
Sindhi language is very, very important. I wish the country realized the importance of Sindhi language more than the Sindhis themselves. Sindhis have 52 letters, whereas most of the languages have 26 or 28 letters. the pronunciations like g, b, d, they don't exist other languages. So it's a very rich language, and it should be protected. I mean, we are so many times I feel I find that people are more worried about the tiger population, but they are not worried about the Sindhi language being extincted. This is very unfortunate. But the present situation is Sindhis have stopped writing Sindhi. Sindhis have stopped reading Sindhi. Sindhis have stopped speaking Sindhi. But the Sindhis have not yet stopped listening Sindhi. So that vocal culture should be promoted in a big way, so that by listening, and the Sindhi language will remain, and ultimately Sindhi language won't die ultimately. I am very positive and optimistic about it, because quite a sizable community of Sindhis, they live across the border in Pakistan also. They are taking care of it. But that is not end of it. Sindhis living in India and abroad, they should take care of their language, because after 50 years, when people will ask young Sindhi children or young youth as to who are they will still be called Sindhis, but they will not be able to explain what Sindhis are. So our legacy must be explained and logically explained, proved to them that what the language offers to them. As I said, it's a rich language, and Sindhi culture, Sindhi literature is very rich, and without understanding the language, they will not be able to read. So it will be a big loss. They will catch up. Ultimately, young generation will catch up, but it will be a hard job.
Yes. Dr. Buxani has very eloquently stressed the need for the new generation of Sindhis to keep a connection to the language, very important to maintain their legacy and heritage. And the Sindhi community are also famous for being entrepreneurs. In all parts of the world, Sindhis can be found, and they excel in business. And are there any special business skills that Sindhis have which helps them to succeed?
Right from the beginning, when Sindhis migrated from Sindh, I mean, they have adopted a policy without which they would not have existed that long. They work on low margin, bigger turnover. This is a Sindhi philosophy. And later on, when I started getting closer to Japanese systems have greatly influenced me, which you will come to know when you read my book. So Japanese philosophy is also market is good sale, market is bad sale, market is normal sale. I mean, hoarding and holding does not make any sense. It is. I mean, people have some of the people have a philosophy to hoard the goods, and ultimately, I mean, multiply the prices and make extra profit. Sindhis would normally work on a smaller margin, but a bigger turnover. And that is the way how they prosper.
And in terms of business, you were a very successful entrepreneur who came to Dubai when there's nothing here. Nobody had heard of Dubai. It was a small town, and you prospered. What business lessons have you learned which you can pass on to other people who perhaps are starting out in business?
I feel, firstly, you don't have to be dishonest to be successful in business. And I'm very sure about it. At the same time, you make your business as a CSR activity, not as a profit-making activity, because you have the product, you add some margin, and you sell it, and whatever profit comes, okay, you need to have. You don't have to be greedy to make it. At the same time, when you are young, be discontent. But when you reach middle-aged or up, contentment is very important, because if you don't feel contented, you are likely to make speculative steps, and then normally speculative steps lead to the disasters. So contentment is very important in life. Okay, I'm not suggesting that for the young person, but after a certain age, having made something, be contented.
Perhaps the person who's most influenced your life
Yes,
has been your mother. Is that right?
that's correct. It's a tough job, a tough responsibility for a lady, a single lady, after losing the husband, to take care of 5 children.
Yes.
Without any earning source. So she was literally selling her jewelry month by month to take care of our education, and this is what she did.
And the title of your autobiography, Taking the High Road, is that a metaphor in some sense for all the Sindhi community? Because all the Sindhi, many millions of the Sindhi community had to take the high road.
Yes. If you get time and if you read it, you will come to know there are so many examples given in Sindhi community, because ladies have played a dominant role. I know, like Hari Lila family in Hong Kong, the lady there has played a very prominent role to bring up the family.
And Dr. Ram Buxani, you've achieved so much in your life. Is there anything more left that you want to achieve? You have great business success, you're a community leader, you're an advocate for the Sindhi community. Are you quite content? Do you have any more milestones to reach?
As I said a little while ago, one person has to be contented, but that does not mean that there's nothing to be achieved. There would always be achieved, because changes are coming, and I have been seeing. But I want to say that I have certain goals set for me, that what I need to achieve. I need to be contented, which I am, and whatever comes on my way, every day is a new day, and every day some of the days can bring extra successes, and some days it will be just normal, and some days would also be losing days. But I personally feel that whatever God plans for you, whatever Guru plans for you, there is a hidden wisdom and blessings in that. We should accept it.
This building that we're sitting in and interviewing you was built in 1973 by your company, when Dubai was non-existent. You're a founding father for Dubai in many ways. Where does your heart lie? Does it lie in Sindh, where your family originated from, in Madras, where you spent a lot of time growing up, or does it lie in Dubai? Where does your heart lie now?
Honestly speaking, I would not be able to identify as to where my heart lies. But having spent my early days in Baroda, so whenever I go to Baroda, I definitely become nostalgic and emotional, like to go in all the small lanes and gullians, and I often remember just these things, saying, ये दौलत भी ले लो, ये शोहरत भी ले लो, मुझे लौटा दो बचपन का सावन, and कागज की कश्ती, और all this, because we start remembering that we used to play those kagaz ki kashti. Yes. But so Baroda is definitely the place where I have
a lot of memories, a lot of fond memories in India. That's great. Finally, what is your message to the Sindhi community and the Punjabi community worldwide? This year we celebrate 550 years of Guru Nanak Dev Ji's message. Yourself, your family, are
Yes.
very close to Guru Nanak Dev Ji's message for all humanity. What is your sandesh or message to the global Sikh and Sindhi community?
I feel, Sindhi community and Punjabis are so close. Guru Granth Sahib is such a valuable scripture which Gurus have given to us. I would request all the Sindhis to understand the meaning and whole philosophy behind such a document and such a scripture. It's true that it's written in Gurmukhi, in Punjabi, and many Sindhis don't understand. That is why in many Gurdwaras, whenever Vachan is taken, I always tell them to please translate. When Hukumnama is being read, then I tell them to please translate it into Hindi so that we can understand the message. But there is a lot to be understood from this scripture. I think Sindhis are already a peace-loving community, because if you see Mohenjo-daro, not even a single weapon was found from there. If two persons are fighting, a Sindhi will run away. And a little while ago I said, the Sindhis don't go into army, they don't join police. You never see a Sindhi policeman. So mostly a peace-loving community. So we have very strong defenders of the nation, the Sikh community. Together, it will be a wonderful combination.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dr. Ram Buxani. Great pleasure to meet you. We heard so much about you when we arrived in Dubai, and many of the Sikh community said to us, Mr. Kandari and others, that you must meet Dr. Ram Buxani and take his interview and take his message across the world. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much.